widow is not a widow indeed unless she has no nephew or
There's no family.
no family.
That was in reference to widows being put on the roll for feeding and physical needs.
Right.
So that's
So
what that
for
was addressing.
physical needs, but she needs to go to her family.
But
And her family, if they do not supply her needs, they are worse off than the pagans.
Right. But for spiritual needs, I mean, but she's supposed to go there for physical needs, but for spiritual needs, she needs to find somebody in Torah.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, unless that family member is in Torah, then she can get under
Sure.
his.
Yeah,
She
right.
can get both in one.
Right, right.
So back then, the women wouldn't stay in their own home. I'm wondering if they had that, opportunity, or if it was just culturally they would have to move in with the brother. Did they physically move in, or?
Most women did not live on their own.
Yeah.
Just
Not a good thing.
In the culture.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Without a
One
police
of the
force,
things-
that would be a dangerous situation, especially in cultures like Rome. Wouldn't be a good deal.
Right.
One of the things I think we need to look at as far as a widow, even if she has children, and they're not walking in Torah, and they don't feel responsibility to care for her, then she is as an orphan. I mean, even though she may have children, there are people who are widowed or for whatever, they're basically orphaned as well, because even though they may have relationships, those relationships are not providing their needs.
Right. Exactly.
Right. Yeah.
But you're saying the children are the ones that are, if they don't supply our needs, they are worse off.
They are worse off than pagans.
That's sobering thought.
What would we say makes pagans bad off?
They're condemned. They're not walking in Torah.
Because also we're commanded to honor our mother and our father. So as children, that's why we're supposed to take care of our widowed parents.
Yes.
Because that's our way, we're supposed to honor them.
It's part of family taking care of each other.
Now, a woman who's away from her family by a long distance, who is living on her own and taking care of herself, and has her personal physical needs taken care of, she needs to have a spiritual covering. So that woman needs to find somebody, like in a group like this, who will take responsibility for covering her and help her in that aspect. But she needs to be careful on also who she picks, and needs to make wise decisions. But that's what that person's responsibility is when they agree to do that.
Right.
They're agreeing to teach her and help her with Torah.
If a man says, I will be your spiritual covering, he's saying that if I don't fulfill my duty, I will be judged for it. And so it's a very serious responsibility to take on, but it's one that's necessary and commanded.
And he should do it publicly.
Yes, it should be public.
Yes.
But what if nobody's
Yes.
willing to do that?
They keep asking.
But the woman has to realize that this man she has chosen is now her authority, and if she's doing something that she shouldn't, and the man comes to her and says, you need to be quiet, or you're that's not correct, then she has to listen to him. She can't just still be independent and do what she wants.
Right. God never intended for women to be off on their own. I know that in America we think we're all that because we can live on our own, we can do great jobs. We think we're just hot stuff. God did not intend that for women.
Thanks to Gloria Steinman.
That's
and
right.
those people.
Women have been told to step out from the covering of men, that the covering of men is a bad thing, and those are all part of Satan's lies.
Yes.
Right.
Amen.
Of course.
And then in some cultures and in some religions, they take it 180 degrees in the opposite direction, and women aren't allowed to do anything, not even show their faces.
Right. And that's an abuse.
But they have no value, which is what's
Right.
the significant part of that.
It's not a protection issue.
Right.
Yeah,
It's not a
it's
covering per se.
Property ownership.
I'm about ready to get up and go.
I need my shoes.
It's very obvious. It's very obvious that God cares a great deal about women. It's like, as a man, if you're wrong,
Are you okay? I didn't do anything, I just walked.
fell down.
What?
Or something fell off the top of it.
Something fell off
There's a
the
shelf, there's a shelf.
Oh.
Okay, are there any questions? Do I need to make anything else clear?
Everything's good.
So, okay, so the whole thing with Paul was saying all of that stuff was just because of he's talking to people that were coming out of a pagan religion, and they needed to look different than the pagans did.
That's a real good
Yes.
one.
Yes. If you didn't hear what Lois said, she said that Paul's instructions over here about the hair, that has to do with you need to look different from the pagans. Remember in Acts 15, they said there are 4 things that the Gentiles who want to come to know God have to do. Those weren't the only 4 things, but those 4 things would make them different from other pagans. It would distinguish them between what they were leaving and what they were choosing to take. Danica.
Isn't it understood that when the women cover their hair so that the angels when they're praying don't find them like attractive or something like that? That's what I've always
Was
heard.
that the Nephians?
I don't find that, especially in Torah.
Okay.
What I find is that when a woman has a covering, the angels recognize his authority under Yeshua.
All right. Okay.
Does that make sense? Okay.
What was that scripture reference again? The 4 things they were supposed to do?
Acts 15.
Acts 15. I thought you said 4:14.
Now, a man has to realize also that the woman may have some insurmountable problems.
Then
And
he shouldn't say yes.
should not wade into that thing because he's not going to be able to help her.
Right.
Gotta be
Kind of insurmountable.
I'm beyond help.
It's okay to
Right,
say no.
yes, it's okay for a man to say no. If there's a situation you know that there's going to be rebellion or strife, or a situation that you personally cannot handle because of whatever, then you should say no if a woman asks you to be your covering. That's because you will be judged.
When Ruth went to Boaz, to a certain point, even though he married her, or they had to marry her, part of that was putting her under a covering of a kinsman, and they did something about
Right, the
they made it
kinsman
public.
redeemer.
They did the thing with the shoe, and there was one that said, "No, I can't." You know, and then Boaz
See, the
was
first
like,
one,
first
the
one
first one
couldn't.
had the opportunity.
right, had the
Yeah, Boaz
opportunity, but
was
then there
the
was a
right
reason he couldn't. But I mean, that's basically kind of the same
He
thing
chose
too.
not to.
Yeah, and that was it. He just chose not
But
to.
he was the first in line, he was the nearer kinsman.
He was the nearer.
Right. And if you look in Torah, what it talks about is if the kinsman is given the opportunity to redeem the woman and the land or whatever, and he says no, he was to take off his sandal and he would become known as the unsandaled people.
Right.
Now, but when you look at Ruth, I think that somebody twisted the scripture there because they say that it was a tradition to take off the sandal and do correspondence or whatever, covenants, whatever. I don't think so. I think going back to Torah, he was taking off his shoe and he was going to become known as an unsandaled people because he refused to do what he was supposed to do.
Do you think that's why
But lucky
Ruth,
for her.
do you think that's why Ruth took his shoes off too, to say like, hey buddy,
Blessed. She was blessed.
you know, I can take your sandal off if I wanted to.
I don't know.
And isn't almost a picture of again, which is the brother that spilled his seed?
Judah's son.
Judah's son.
Yeah, that failed to carry out his obligations to her. He's killed.
Yes, he was. And you look at that, he was her husband, but he wasn't walking Torah.
Right.
So he was killed.
wasn't spiritually covered.
And then Judah failed to protect
Tamar.
Tamar.
Right.
Yes.
And yeah, he was supposed to be protecting her, and he didn't. He sent her back to her family with pagans.
Right. And she knew more about the Torah than he did. She just used deceptive ways to do it. Any questions?
Well,
Shirley,
are you telling us that we should wear long hair?
are you in Corinth?
No.
Okay.
Well, I mean, if you shave your head today,
I'm not
they're
gonna
gonna
shave
think
my
you're a
head.
lesbian.
Well, that's true.
The whole point here is do not look like the pagans.
Yeah, we're having cancer.
It's look like someone who's from the family of God.
Because we walk differently.
Right.
We live differently.
Our body is the temple.
Right.
Is that why some sects, whatever, like the women wear black dresses and have their little kerchief thing on their head? Is that them saying we're set apart, we're different, we want to be recognized as being different?
Yes and no. They take this literally, that they're supposed to have something on their head.
Okay, so they're taking it a little bit out of context, would
Yes.
you say?
Or
Yes.
they're making their own
letter.
determination in context.
True.
The letter
I
of
don't
the
know
law.
that it's for us to say whether
And
it's.
they're not walking Torah either, most
Right.
of them.
No, they
Because
aren't.
nowhere in Torah does it command that.
Right.
But you know, it's interesting to see how integral the idea of setting apart is, because even those who are not Torah observant still adhere to the idea of let us set ourselves apart.
Yes.
Ecclesia.
But they do
Because
it
everybody
right in their
does
eyes.
it.
Yes, they do.
No matter whether you're which side you're on, let's wear this, or let's identify ourselves as different from you so that people can know.
Right. An example in everyday life is, I go to Walmart. Today, I can't tell the difference between an employee and a shopper.
Yeah.
No,
There
they
used to be a
can't.
time when you could go into Walmart and you could pick out who works
Right.
there because they looked different.
Mhm.
They don't anymore.
Yeah, that's
They
why they
wore
design.
little vests.
They don't want you to ask them anything.
Well, I think so.
Because they don't know anything anyway.
Hey, I used to be a department manager at John Brown. We knew
She
stuff.
looked good.
Gabriel.
Of course you did.
Well, I don't know if you guys ever, when you watch GLC, there's a teacher on there, his name's Ben Burton, and when I was down in Odessa, with Alan, I got a chance to spend time with him and really get to know him a little bit, because his family was there, and so his
See,
wife was there. What's that?
Is he a new teacher?
Yeah, I think he's been on in the past like 6 months. He's come on. Well, anyway, so his wife wears a head covering, and so we got started talking about